Got it. Super. Just preparing to live stream. All right. We should be ready to roll here in just a second. And we are ready to roll. Hoosier Nation. It's a great day to be an Indiana basketball fan. More good news for the program, even though they haven't played a single official NCAA sanctioned game against another college opponent in the Mike Woodson era. The news has been flowing fast and furious. Indiana landed another highly regarded high school basketball commitment to bolster their 2022 recruiting class. Earlier on Tuesday, four-star combo guard Jalen Hood-Schifino out of Montverde Academy in Central Florida said yes to the Indiana Hoosiers, committing to IU over his other finalist, the University of Tennessee. And we're going to break down his commitment and so much more here on episode 214 of the Hoosier Sound, where we are your official podcast of Indiana HQ. Tonight, I am joined by my normal co-host, Matt Lukens. Matt, I know you've loved Jalen HoodSchifino for a long time. Why should IU fans be super pumped about the newest addition to the Indiana Hoosiers?
He's a big point guard, and he's kind of a prototypical of what the NBA is looking for now, right? A 6'5", 6'6" guard that can guard multiple positions, run up with the ball, and can shoot. And that's Jalen Hood-Schifino. He does at Montverde Academy, home of the school that produced stars like Joel Embiid, D'Angelo Russell, Ben Simmons. Though Ben Simmons as a star is a bit of an arguable point, but still they were good players in their own right. And there's a lot of star power that comes out of that school. Jalen Hood-Schifino is the next in the line. He's 25th in his class, I believe, which is interesting. And usually top 25 players are 5 stars. There's only like 21 5 stars in this class. So he's like right on the edge there, depending on where you look. But again, interesting stuff, of course, and super excited to have him. Like you said, I've been interested in him for a while. I noted that him and Noah Clowney, another 6'10", high school senior from South Carolina, was going to be somebody that would be the next to commit, or the next people I thought would come into the program. So I feel validated that I was correct in my assumption that Jalen would be coming our way. Of course, if you watch his commitment live on CBS Sports, he had a nice video talking about how his mom and his sister are like his reasons why he tries so hard. And I thought it was so adorable. And he seems like a really nice kid and a really solid human being that we're bringing in to this Hoosier program, which, by the way, seems to be the case with most of the people that walk in the door nowadays for the Hoosier program, which in seasons past might not have been exactly what you might say about some of our players, but it's nice that there's a solid locker room growing around and full of characters and with good character in Bloomington.
Yeah, especially now with more and more things being in person, and that team chemistry and that team bonding is so incredibly valuable. To give you some background on Jalen Hood-Schifino, he's a 6'5", 210 combo guard. Again, Montverde Academy. That's a prep school in Florida, in case you're not fully aware. His hometown is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He attended high school in North Carolina before transferring to Montverde for his last year of college basketball. He's going to be a senior, so he's going to have another year before stepping on campus in Bloomington about a year from now to start the 2022-23 basketball season. Hood-Schifino originally committed to his hometown school, the University of Pittsburgh. It was a big win there for Jeff Capel, former Duke assistant. They said, wow, Pitt is really going to splash here in a few years with Hood-Schifino coming over. But as is the case a lot of times with high school players who commit 2.5, 3.5, 4.5 years before they start college, it's hard to put too much stock into that. So Hood-Schifino, a handful of months later in June 2020, reopened his recruitment. And as soon as he did that, the offers started flooding in from all sorts of high major schools. I talked about how Tennessee was the other finalist in the race, but schools like Kansas and UConn and Illinois and Florida and Memphis and Texas were all involved in HoodSchifino's recruitment. What you'll notice is that last year he didn't play a ton for Montverde Academy, and that's because every year Montverde Academy turns out a ton of really high-level high school basketball players. For example, one of their best players is Kaleb Houston, who's now about to enter his playing time at the University of Michigan, a top 10, top 15 national recruit. Jalen Duren, one of the top 5 high school basketball recruits in the country, reclassified to play this upcoming freshman season at the University of Memphis. It's hard to get on the court at Montverde Academy, and Jalen HoodSchifino is about to see that volume this upcoming basketball season. And I think, Matt, your point earlier about him the cusp of that 5-star range, I think with a good season, you'll definitely see him vault into that 5-star level. We're not going to waste too much more time on Montverde Academy and the prestige that school has. You can Google it. They had 7 draft picks in the 2021 NBA draft. That is an absolutely obscene number. They have had routinely high numbers of top 50, top 60 national high school basketball recruits, and Indiana's finally planted their recruiting seed at Montverde Academy after getting Tamar Bates from IMG Academy. You can clearly tell it's a point of emphasis for Mike Woodson and Kenya Hunter and Dane Fife and Yasir Rosemond as they develop their recruiting strategy here. Plenty of complimentary praise and reports coming out of highly regarded and respected recruiting analysts when they talk about the kind of player that Jalen HoodSchifino can be. ESPN's Adam Finkelstein calls him a big physical guard, an elite defender, a ball mover, a tough driver, and multi-positional. How about Eric Bossy from 24/7 Sports, who says he's one of the most versatile guards in the country? Versatile is a word that you see constantly thrown out in the description of HoodSchifino. Matt pointed it out earlier. That's the current day and age modern trend, especially in high-level basketball. You want a guy who can do a whole lot of different things on the court when he's there. And of course, under the tutelage of Mike Woodson, you better believe HoodSchifino will improve the areas where the coaching staff finds him to be a little bit weaker. ESPN's Paul Biancardi says that HoodSchifino is an excellent player, and HoodSchifino told Biancardi that Kenya Hunter has been recruiting him for a long time. We have a great relationship. Mike Woodson is a genuine guy. He keeps it real. He's an NBA guy. That's where I want to go. So, Matt, as I toss it back to you, let's talk about Mike Woodson. And let's talk more about Kenya Hunter. Here is somebody who did something that you don't see too often, and that is he stayed at the same school even though there was a change in the head coach. Tell Hoosier fans, while Mike Woodson gets all the headlines, how important is Kenya Hunter to the success of this Indiana basketball program?
He's irreplaceable at this point. As far as our recruiting success goes, he's basically been the head recruiter on like half of our commitments. Him and Yasir Rosemond worked together to get our last Kaleb Banks, our last commit. Kenya was still the point man, even though Yasir was basically a high school tutor to this guy, right? And a skills coach to Kaleb Banks, to still send in Kenya because he's like one of those guys that just gets along with high schoolers. And that's not in like the creepy way. That's in the like, that's his job kind of way. And he does really well at it. He can connect with them, connects with their families. He makes real connections, obviously, because Jalen heard from all the top recruiters in the country, all of them. Like, you think Rick Barnes at Tennessee wasn't sending his top recruiter to go talk to a fringe 5-star kid? You kidding me? Yeah, he heard from all the top recruiters in the country. There's a reason why he when he mentioned Kenya's name, he said, "I've talked to him for a while." Because to Jalen, that connection he's developed with Kenya means something to him. It's valuable, and that's a really cool strategy and a really cool thing to see from this staff, and something that I really actually totally thought was going to happen from day one, which is that they're going to make meaningful connections. You know, we might not make, you know, we might not be able to go after the number one, number two guys every single year. We're not going to be Kentucky, right? We're not going to pull 7 5-stars because we're handing them bags at McDonald's with cash in it, and we have all the glitz and glamour. That's not what we have. But we will get people that actually genuinely want to work with our staff. And honestly, to me, that's more important because those guys are going to stay, right? Like, for instance, the statement could come back and bite me in the ass
what are we going to do here, Matt? What are you going to
12 months. But if you look at the playing time that Christian Lander is getting right now, right? Former 5-star recruit. He's a top 10 guy in his class, by the way. Is not getting a lot of playing time. And honestly, when you look at it, you go, I wouldn't blame him if he left. But when you look back on his recruitment, one of the main guys in his recruitment was Kenya Hunter, who helped out. And he's still on the staff. And the staff is trying to develop genuine relationships with the players. And it's those relationships that other coaches will talk about, oh, the transfer portal is terrible in this. We're going to lose people in the transfer portal. Well, if you recruit players correctly and you do all the right things leading up to them joining your school, they shouldn't want to leave. They should want to continue those connections and want to tough it out, right, and stick there. And it's these kind of connections that Jalen kind of hinted at, but like I know is there because we've talked about this in multiple other recruitment videos and talked about this about multiple other players. These connections are being made to where it's actually like a tough decision for them to go, should I leave or not, even though they're getting no playing time, because they know that they're not going to get the same level of respect and sort of familiarity that they would get at Indiana, they would get anywhere else. And that's really important. And that sells to other recruits, by the way, as well. That's the word of mouth thing. Like, Nithin brought in like, oh, now we have the connection at Montverde. He's serious about that. And IMG too. These are really well planned out commitments and strategic recruitments by the staff. Again, IMG has a top 5 guy every year. Montverde also has a top 5 guy every year, right? And so while Tamar and Jalen aren't going to be top 5 guys, they might even be top 5 NBA draft picks. Of course, I would love for them both to turn out that way. But they have teammates, they have younger teammates that look up to them at those schools. And further down the line, when they look, oh, Jalen's having a blast at IU. He comes back for summer workouts with his friends, talks about it, right? Those things really go a long way. Oh, I've heard about Coach Hunter from Jalen. I've heard about Coach Fife from Tamar. These things go a really long way in recruiting. And it's nice to see that the staff is actually taking a wholesome strategy towards recruiting.
No, absolutely. And I see all of you who have joined us here on our live stream here at Live Chats Moving. Feel free to drop in any questions you have, what you want to know about Jalen Hood-Schifino here. As earlier on Tuesday, Hood-Schifino committed to Indiana, a class of 2022 shooting guard, one of the top 25 high school basketball players in the nation. His commitment bumped Indiana up to 5th in the 24/7 sports recruiting rankings, and one of the highest rankings Indiana has had in a long time. It's the highest since the class of 2013, which was spearheaded by Noah Vonleh. Look, Matt, I like a lot of what you said, and you talk about those connections at Montverde Academy. There's another top 100 high school basketball player that Indiana is hotly pursuing in power forward Malik Renault, a guy who shares a lot of the same physical qualities of somebody like Trace Jackson Davis. So Renault hasn't decided on where he wants to play college basketball yet, but it is an example, once again, of Indiana pursuing a highly regarded player out of Montverde Academy. They haven't ignored the Indiana guys, right? CJ Gunn's about to join the program as well. He's part of that 5th rated recruiting class in the class of 2022 for Indiana. Of course, you talked about Kaleb Banks earlier out of Georgia. A couple more quotes from Hood-Schifino, this time to 24/7 Sports. As far as him talking about Mike Woodson, the NBA is the level I'm trying to get to, so that contributed. Hood-Schifino said that Woodson is a former NBA guy. So from talking to him and being on the Zooms and being on the visit, he's trying to bring that NBA feel to Indiana. And that's ultimately where I want to get to someday. So I think me playing in a system and running NBA sets will be good for me. And that is a system I'll be able to thrive in. So you can see what the vision is for Indiana that Scott Dolson has and Mike Woodson has. It's going to be very different. It's going to be a stark contrast from what you've seen in previous years. But again, that's what you get when you make a coaching change. At Kenya Hunter, you see some fire emojis in the live chat here for Kenya. It's such an incredibly important addition to keep him as a holdover from the previous staff. We've talked before on the podcast. We'll send out a link to it later on after we upload it to wherever you listen to podcasts. But when Hunter was hired, we commented on that podcast episode that it's only a matter of time before Hunter gets a head coaching job. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that someone who's been a lifelong assistant essentially has not gotten the offer to be a head coach, at least one that he's accepted. So it's only a matter of time, folks, if you ask me, if you ask Matt, before Hunter gets that head coaching job. So when he does, Indiana's going to have some pretty big shoes to fill. But until then, Hunter is the super valuable recruiting assistant on the staff. Never mind the important things he does as far as game preparation and execution and adjustments during those 40 minutes. So stay tuned, folks. We're going to have so much more here about the Jalen Hood-Schifino commitment. I just wanted to make sure that all of you know, follow us over on Indiana HQ on Twitter, over on the Hoosier Sound on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. We are everywhere. I saw that Jalen Hood-Schifino posted out a really nice recruiting commitment video on Instagram. I think his account is jfino_0. So make sure you go follow him on Instagram. I didn't find him on Twitter. Matt, you can correct me if I'm wrong when we get to you here in a second, but definitely keep that in mind as far as our social media presence. Football season's around the corner. Men's basketball season's coming up soon. The Olympic sports are getting going as well. So absolutely make sure you give us a follow and we'll have you covered. It's time for Who Won the Week real quick right here on the Hoosier Sound. And this past week, I wanted to tip my cap to a couple of key football players. Linebacker Micah McFadden and corner Tywan Mullen were named second team preseason AP All-American. It is a rare territory for Indiana football players to be named to the preseason AP All-America list. A couple guys made the second team. I was a little surprised I didn't see Ty Freifogel on that list, but hey, nothing wrong with a little inspiration, a little motivation. That'll probably fire him up more than enough as the Hoosiers take the field in 11 days against the Iowa Hawkeyes here. Kickoff 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central on Big Ten Network. So, Matt, let's talk more about Jalen Hood-Schifino. I know that's what the fans want to hear, so let's dive right back into it. I know you've watched a lot of Hood-Schifino film. I know you've seen him play quite a bit, whether it's at the AAU level, whether it's at the Montverde level. Are there any NBA or college comparisons you have in mind for Hood-Schifino? I know there is never going to be an apples to apples type thing, but I always find that this is a way that you can at least frame in people's minds exactly what kind of player Hood-Schifino can be. So what are your thoughts as far as somebody that Hoosier fans have watched before in the NBA or in the college level to give them a point of view for Hood-Schifino?
He has the body of like a Lonzo Ball, but he's kind of got the shiftiness and old man game of Jalen Brunson is who I would combine the two. Of course, the thing with player comps is unless it's like super obvious, there's some players that mold their playing style after a certain NBA player. So it's very easy to look at somebody and go, oh, he plays a lot like Kevin Durant. Oh, he plays a lot like insert this person. But for Jalen, he's very unique because, again, he's 6'5", 6'6", a big point guard. So on the ball, there's a lot of them in the NBA, but most of them are super athletic or like absolute freakish shooters. He's neither of those. He's not a super athlete. He's not a super shooter, which I'm sure some of you in the chat will be like, oh no, alarm bells.
What are we doing?
No, he shoots the ball well. He's just not a sniper. He's not going to be a guy who's going to shoot 45% from three. He reminds me of Jalen Brunson because he likes to take people off the dribble, something Jalen did, of course. Most good point guards do, but he also can back somebody down. He's got that big body. He's got a ton of lower body strength. And he's got a couple post moves to himself. He's got a really good floater as well. So those are like the little things that remind me of Jalen Brunson a little bit. And I'm hoping with this player comp to maybe even breathe a little bit of Jalen Brunson into the program. We could really use a player like that in Indiana over the last couple of years. And so I'm trying to just talk it into existence at this point.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, that's a nice breakdown that you gave. I like the idea of sort of mixing and matching different players to get to
it's
exactly what HoodSchifino can be. By the way, I just thought it was funny along the lines of Lonzo Ball. I thought it was funny that according to 24/7 Sports, the 23rd ranked recruit in the 2019 recruiting class was LaMelo Ball. And so, it's kind of funny how that all works full circle. It's a completely random note, completely random observation, but it's funny, Lonzo, LaMelo, as well as Jalen HoodSchifino kind of have similar physical skill sets. In order to sort of give you my comparison, I'm going to say that I see HoodSchifino as someone that is a very, very, very budget, very, very, very discount version of Cade Cunningham, someone that you saw play at Montverde Academy and now get selected as the first overall pick in the NBA draft in 2021. I'm not saying that Jalen HoodSchifino is going to be Cade Cunningham, because it's not, unless there's an absolute miracle of God. That's not happening.
We'll take it though.
But yeah, we absolutely will. But when you see I mean, let's just put it this way. Cade Cunningham is 3 inches taller than HoodSchifino is, and about 20 or 30 pounds larger as well. So it's not that he is Cade Cunningham, but similar style of play, similar mindset when he approaches the game. Even HoodSchifino called himself versatile. So somebody who affects the game in a number of different ways, good rebounder for his position. And I see a lot of similarities in the scouting report for HoodSchifino, and I see for Cade Cunningham. So that's exactly what I'm thinking at as far as what you can kind of look at as far as a player that you've seen before for HoodSchifino. I like the comment here from P. McGowan 593 talking about Kenya Hunter. You got to keep throwing money at him to hold him as long as they can. Dolson can offer a raise for sure. Hey, the good news for Scott Dolson is that now he's going to get some revenue, right? Finally, after a full year off, he's going to get those football ticket sales. He's going to get those men's basketball ticket sales and women's basketball ticket sales and all that concession revenue and parking revenue. Paid a handful of this is quite steep. So, definitely interesting. I mean, hey, look, if you care about Indiana men's basketball and you see some of those football tickets available, look, these things all kind of tie together. So that's where we see HoodSchifino as far as the kind of player he can be. I mean, Matt, just in general, I mean, what should the general level of expectation be for Jalen HoodSchifino? Because look, there are still going to be a lot of highly qualified players on the roster going into the 2022-23 basketball season. You can expect that somebody like Rob Finney might still be around. Christian Lander might still be around. Anthony Leal will be around. Potentially Tamar Bates will still be here. And then you also have another incoming freshman in CJ Gunn. How do you see HoodSchifino fit in his first season? And then what do you think his future holds beyond just that first season in Bloomington?
He's somebody that instantly fits into the lineup, in my opinion, just because, again, I think we've said this word about 12 times in this podcast, but versatility. He's 6'5". He can play without the ball or with the ball. And that's just a little wrinkle that you can add to an offense that can really just instantly make an offense go from a top 25 to a top 5. Because then the teams have to really shade over to, okay, we have, let's say Christian Lander takes a jump this year and he starts next year, right? Which we're all hoping happens. Okay, Christian Lander's on the ball, but we have to remember where Jalen is at all time, because Jalen can be in the corner, but then they can just run a side pick and roll off of another set from Christian, and all of a sudden we're guarding 2 different plays at one time. So it's that slight bit of hesitation that you bring to a defense that a secondary ball handler can bring. And it's, again, mostly due to his size. Being 6'5" in college, you don't have to be 6'6", 6'8" to be a 2 or a 3. You can be a 2 or a 3, or guarding 2s or 3s, as a 6'5" player in college. That's okay. And you add him along with somebody like hopefully a Tamar Bates that stays another year. And then you think of a backcourt of Christian Lander, Jalen HoodSchifino, and Tamar Bates. And that makes a lot of sense to me. Like those three playing together make a lot of sense. So Tamar doesn't need the ball, and both those guards can play without the ball, or hopefully can. But at this point, in the terms of Christian Lander, and so this just makes a lot of sense to me. The game plan that the staff has laid out has made a lot of sense. You look up and down our recruits. You look at Kaleb Banks, has a huge boom or bust potential guy. Has a ton of stuff to work on. He's diamond in the rough. You have CJ Gunn, in-state kid, come in. You know he's going to be hustle. You know he's going to know the basics and the fundamentals because he's just an Indiana kid. That's what they do. They come in, and he can work on the little subtleties of his game. And then as far as you have a superstar in Jalen HoodSchifino, or a possible superstar on your hands, and all of these guys could fit into roles on the team. And I really like the plan the staff has laid out.
Yeah, they've really set up Indiana to succeed here. And like we've said, though, just to tap the brakes a little bit, like we've said for previous seasons with solid recruiting classes, a lot of it does come down to, hey,
speculation.
Do you end up, and at the end of the day, when the games are played, do you end up scoring more points than the team in the other jersey staring you down? So at the end of the day, all I know IU fans care about is how many wins that Indiana gets. But getting players like HoodSchifino and having a vision for where the program's going to go, that's definitely a good sign as far as what Mike Woodson and Kenya Hunter and Dane Fife and Yasir Rosemont and the staff are putting together. Don't forget Thad Mata, the consultant who came over from Ohio State after a few years away from the game. So that sort of stuff absolutely makes a difference. A few more notes about Jalen HoodSchifino. Yeah, he committed to Indiana on Mamba Day, on Kobe Day here, 8/24, and a lot of Instagram content that HoodSchifino has put out has shown him and his affection and affiliation for Kobe Bryant. So definitely, while I don't think anyone's expecting HoodSchifino to be Kobe, it is very cool to see that sort of connection here. By the way, super strange here. I noticed we're 22 minutes away from 8:24 p.m. here in the Central Time Zone, which would be a super Kobe. It's 8:24 on 8:24. But in addition, I thought it was funny to see some fun facts about Jalen HoodSchifino posted on the USA basketball website. He started playing basketball when he was 6 years old. Away from the court, he enjoys barbecues and hanging out with friends and family. His favorite class is science. So, nice. That's perhaps some sort of, education plan for HoodSchifino here when he steps on campus at Indiana University. If he could play any sport professionally aside from basketball, it would be football. He did play quarterback when he was in high school in North Carolina, so that's there. And according to the USA Basketball website, his favorite pregame meal is pasta, a protein bar, an apple, and a supplement drink. So really drawing from all the different food groups there to get him ready to go.
Yes, the supplement drink food group. Yes.
To get him ready to go for every single game that he plays. Real quick, let's give out our social media shout out here. I wanted to tip my cap as Olympic sports have begun to Indiana women's soccer. Freshman goalkeeper Jamie Gerstenberg, who has put up 2 clean sheets in Indiana's first 2 games, a 1-0 win over Valparaiso, and then a 0-0 draw against Notre Dame on the road in South Bend. It's great to see women's soccer coming around, men's soccer coming around, so on and so forth. We've talked about it before. Tip of the cap to Jamie Gerstenberg. I also wanted to tip my cap to our Indiana HQ family here. We crossed the 5,000 follower mark on Twitter. If you're not one of the 5,000, be part of the next 5,000. So make sure you give us a follow and make sure you tell your friends and family who have Twitter accounts, who care about Indiana basketball and Indiana football, because we're going to have so much more to look forward to here in the next calendar year and what more beyond that. So super excited to keep this thing going. It's a pretty big milestone. We're pretty pumped up about it here as we head into September 2021. Matt, as we sort of zoom out a little bit, Indiana, like I said, is now the 5th rated recruiting class in the country for the class of 2022. Some of the other schools up there right now, Ohio State's got the number 1 spot. Kansas is second, North Carolina is third, and Eric Musselman's Arkansas Razorbacks are fourth. Look, fifth in the country, second in the Big Ten. That's pretty lofty. But as we've seen before, Indiana fans have high expectations of this program. I mean, what should IU fans expect now from a recruiting standpoint? I mean, for God's sake, should we continue to expect top five recruiting classes here as long as these guys stick together?
I mean, these guys are not going to end up being a top five class. I mean, let's hold the break. As much as I am happy about the early success of recruiting, it is early. Most people haven't committed yet. That happens usually November, October, December area. You'll start to see classes fill out then. I think when I look at the 5-star rankings right now, most people haven't committed. So again, we're going to take a bit of a hit and fall back. I would be surprised if this class ends up in about the 15 to 20 range, just because we have a couple 3-stars right now. Hopefully Kaleb Banks and CJ Gunn take a bit of a jump in recruiting rankings. People realize how good these guys are and how underrated I think, especially Kaleb Banks is. But it's going to hover around that 15 to 20 range. That is exactly where we should be.
Oh, yeah.
100%. We should be top 15, top 20 every year with a top 5, maybe even top class every 3-4 years. I'm serious. Like the program should be at that level. If Mike Woodson can get this team to a Sweet 16, an Elite 8, God forbid a Final 4, right? Like you're gonna start seeing the results come in because with Woodson's NBA background, Fife's knowledge of the Big Ten area, obviously what you can see, we've talked about with what Kenya Hunter can do, and then Yasir Rosemond's ability to find diamonds in the rough and
gaps,
develop
right?
them
In the southern part of the United States, especially. Yeah,
exactly. So our staff is very well built to start hitting on really high level players. You just have to get results in the court. Obviously, we're off to a great start, 2-0 with Bahamas. That's good against a really good BC.
Counts for some. It doesn't count for anything, but it's at least noteworthy.
It's something
better than 0-2.
We're grasping at straws here. Okay, we don't have a ton to go off of, but what we do have to go off of is all good news. So, therefore, let our hearts flutter and expectations rise as we look forward into a bright future for the Indiana Hoosiers.
Yeah, bright future, especially short-term future. I don't think this is something that he can say he needs to slow boil for 4 or 5 years. I think Indiana fans are ready to roll here from the jump as far as his 2021-22 season is concerned. And then when Banks, Gunn, and Hood-Schifino step on campus here, like I said, about a year from now, as they are about to embark on their final high school season. Matt, overall, like I like the points you made. Yeah, I think top 20 recruiting classes are where Indiana needs to be. And I think as you dive further into things, it's exciting to see exactly what the vision, what the strategy is. These are words that we've thrown out before, but guys who can shoot, guys who can check a lot of different boxes as far as players who are capable of doing 4 or 5 or 6 things on the court all at once. All very encouraging to see here. So yeah, just to be clear, the official stance of the Hoosier Sound is not top 5 recruiting class or bust, because that is wildly unrealistic.
It'd be nice if we can get to that expectation, by the way. It would be nice to be a Kentucky or Duke. Let's be real here.
It would. And look, hey, look, as far as I'm concerned, though, that's not a requirement for success. After all, last year, we saw both Kentucky and Duke struggle to win basketball games, even though this is the kind of recruiting strategy that they've put forth. So it's something to keep in mind here as the weeks and the months go by. Certainly interesting. One question I threw out on our weekly podcast poll, Matt, was what grade would you give Mike Woodson and his staff as far as their recruiting ability since Woodson took over in late March? And now the answers are a little delicate here. You got to watch out because the options aren't as obvious as you think. The options for this poll were A+, A minus, or the last one, B+ or worse. So clearly, I know the perception that Indiana fans have is the recruiting's going great. and everything's going great. The coaches are hitting the transfer portal and it's working out. And the Hoosiers are recruiting great high school players and they're committing to Indiana. So I know the perception is really good. So the way you look at it, is it A plus, A minus, or B plus or worse?
I think it's an A. I think it's a solid 95.
You'll take that.
Yeah, you'll take that. It's a 4.0 at IU. We'll take that. It's not a 3.75. By the way, that is despicable that a 91 is a 3.75. I hate that. Anyways, I think they've done a fantastic job with everything. Now they've missed on a couple guys. Obviously, that happens. It's just the way she rolls. And so it can't be an A plus. A plus would be, we have 6 5-star recruits. We've gotten the 4 of the 5 best top 5 trend. It's impossible to get an A plus. So an A is good. Now, I think I have an inkling as to what the rating the Hoosiers fans have given it. But
I'm gonna give him an A for all the reasons that you gave him an A.
Right,
what do you think? What do you think IU fans said as far as their answers to this poll question?
We're a bunch of miserable souls, and we have been for quite a long while. And so we're looking for something positive. And so when anything positive happens, Hoosier fans overreact just a tad, and only by a little bit. So I'm going to say that they probably majority think it's an A plus.
Wow, man, look at you. Great prognosticator. Look, guys, if you want to know the pulse of Hoosier Nation, just hit up Matt Lukens. Here we got his Twitter account on the live stream at MDLukens101. Just be like, good evening, Matt. What are Hoosier fans thinking right now? And he'll tell you the answer like a soothsayer. But you're absolutely right. 51% of the respondents to our poll, over 250 of them so far, 51% has said A plus for Woodson and his staff. 40% said A, 7% gave him an A minus, gave him and his staff an A minus, and then 2% said B plus or lower.
They've got really 2% people. Who is 2%?
They've got really, really high standards.
Stand up.
Perhaps, I guess missing out on someone like Kyle Flipkowski might be a little frustrating. I don't know. I can't think off the top of my head who else we're recruiting with. That's what I get for making things up and talking on the spot here. But just to be clear, we've got a full scale story on IndianaHQ.com about Jalen Hood-Schifino's commitment to Indiana. He commented to CBS Sports that his goal at IU is to bring the program back on track. So hopefully they get some traction this upcoming season, make a splash and make the NCAA tournament. And Hood-Schifino's ready to take it to new heights once he steps on campus. We have full quotes from Hood-Schifino to CBS Sports, to 24/7 Sports in our article over there. We talked about some of the things that he emphasizes, some of these schools that offered him that we didn't mention during this podcast. So make sure you head over to IndianaHQ.com to get the full scale story. It's an exciting day for Indiana basketball fans. We've talked about it before. You shouldn't have to tap the brakes too much here. You have the right to be excited. Indiana gets a big time player from Jalen Hood-Schifino, who has a really high floor. It's going to be really hard for him to bust, as I completely jinxed that 100%. So Matt, as we wind down here on this Tuesday night, Indiana football is knocking on the door. We're going to have a full-scale game preview next week before kickoff on the Indiana Hoosiers top 20 matchup to start the season against the Iowa Hawkeyes. Tonight, we got a little flexible. We reserved this entire episode for Jalen Hood-Schifino's commitment to Indiana. Matt, as we wind down tonight, what are your final thoughts?
Fantastic day for IU basketball, of course. Always getting a new member to the family is great. I'm excited for football to start up next weekend. Of course, there's football this weekend, by the way. Big Ten starts up. We can watch Nebraska lose to Illinois on national television. There's nothing better.
What is life? Why am I rooting for Illinois more than Nebraska? Illinois is a longtime Big Ten rival, but there would be nothing that makes me happier to see Illinois whoop the Cornhuskers on Saturday.
That's because Illinois football has been basically a dead boat on the water since Juice Williams sucked all the juice out of them. Right. Yeah. So let's be fair. It's not like we're scared of Illinois. I'm not scared of Brett Bielema either. But by the way, this is a huge opportunity for Illinois football.
Oh, yeah.
They are the only thing happening. Like, it's baseball and then this random Big Ten college football game. Where do you think people are going to be watching? It's going to be the college football game because that's what people would rather watch than baseball at this point. It's not the playoffs yet. It's fine. And it's Nebraska, who has a solid fan base, and everybody loves to see lose, especially after what they did in the 90s. So everybody's rooting for Illinois. It's a huge opportunity. Night game at home against Nebraska. You start off 1-0. I can't believe I'm talking about Illinois right now.
It's also not a night game. It's smack dab in the middle of the daytime. It's a noon kick. But look, yeah. Anyway,
under the lights at noon.
Right. If it rains or something, they'll have the lights on.
Exactly.
You're prognosticating cloud coverage.
Okay. For some reason, I thought the game was on Friday night, like they've done for most of the Big Ten kickoffs before. Yeah. I thought it might have been a Friday night game. My bad. Sorry. Saturday at noon. But it all blends in together. But it's like a big opportunity for Illinois. I'm excited for college football to be back. It's week 0. Week 1 is next week. Obviously, the big boys play next week. I'm very excited to watch some of the other games that are going to be on next weekend, including that Georgia-Clemson. Is it Georgia-Clemson that play, I believe, week 1, which is awesome. It's great. I would love college – this is a rant. But I'd love college football teams to play their local rivals that aren't in their conference, like Georgia and Clemson, SEC, ACC. Obviously, we won't see this anymore because now we have a strategic agreement with the Pac-12 and the ACC.
A word-of-mouth alliance.
A word-of-mouth alliance to shun the SEC because they took Texas and Oklahoma. Like, good for them for getting Oklahoma, but Texas? Are we really mad about Texas? I think Indiana football at this point has a better team than Texas does.
Ooh, fighting words. I like it. I think that would be a fun college football playoff preview. A fun New Year's 6 bowl preview. As I zoom out here, the one thing that I noticed as we wrap things up,
I went on a real large tangent.
Well,
there.
I loved Nick's comment here in our live chat. He's like, "You guys talking about a Final Four? Hell, just beating Purdue sounds good as far as men's basketball is concerned."
Exactly. Yeah.
And I know. It's just anytime a highly regarded high school basketball player commits to Indiana, the really excitement and optimism is abound as expected. Nothing wrong with that. But as I zoom out here and I look at Indiana's roster for the 2022-23 season, there are 16 guys out of 13 scholarship spots that are eligible to play for Indiana next season, from guys like Michael Durr and Xavier Johnson and Miller Kopp and Rob Finney and Trace Jackson Davis, all the way down to the new guys and Kaleb Banks and CJ Gunn, now Jalen Hood-Schifino. Look, for all the excitement we have about additions to this basketball team, there have to be at least 3 subtractions. So while we assume Trace Jackson Davis will probably take the leap to the NBA draft for 2022, there's still 2 other guys that have to move on from Indiana University. So just keep that in mind here. It's the day and age of the transfer portal. Guys move around just like they're professional NBA or NFL players now. So don't be surprised here as you see a couple Hoosiers depart, but that's a problem for a year from now. I know IU fans are justifiably excited for this upcoming basketball season, but that about wraps it up for our 214th episode of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your support. Thank you to our live audience. You guys are all beautiful people. To hear more fantastic episodes like the one you heard today, be sure to follow us at Indiana HQ and at the Hoosier Sound to make sure you don't miss any in the future. You can also go to our website, indianahq.com, to find it all in one place. Lastly, if you enjoy our show, leave us a review, tell a friend, share our links. Your support really helps us grow this podcast and reach more passionate IU fans such as yourself. But as always, thank you for listening, Hoosier Nation, and we will see you next time.
Peace and love, go Hoosiers.